Hi, friends. Welcome to our lesson on the freshwater habitat. And that is the one that we left off with the beautiful pictures of in our last lesson. But before we get started, let's see what our song says about the freshwater habitat. I'm going to take off my camera and let's listen.
Hopscotch! I am an explorer of this beautiful earth, from the jungle to the polar caps. There are so many different homes for living things, and we call them habitats. A forest is made up of trees and animals. Oxygen and water are the norm. Temperate means it goes through different seasons, and tropical means it's very wet and warm. A forest is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. Grasslands can have many titles: pampas, prairies, savannas, or steppes. And just like forests, they can be tropical or temperate. A grassland is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. Fresh water can be a marsh or river, a wetland, a swamp, or a lake.
This is us today.
And fresh water can be ideal for insects, for beavers, and snakes. Fresh water is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. The poles include the Arctic and Antarctic. Both are very dry and cold, and animals need blubber or hibernation if they want to live around the poles. A polar biome is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. A desert's dry and doesn't have much water. Some species live by storing it inside. Some hide beneath the sand when it gets hotter, and come out in the open when it's night. A desert is a home for living things, and it's one of the habitats. The ocean is vast and it's all salt water, with jellyfish, whales, and sharks. From the coral reef in the shallow parts to the deep where it's always dark. The ocean is a home for living things. There are even more homes for living things. So many different homes for living things, and we call them habitats.
And I never seem to tire of that song. So let's take a look at our vocabulary for the day as we start our freshwater habitat. So, in the freshwater habitat, you're going to notice that the water does not have much salt in it. It's water that people can drink, but you have to be careful. If you were to drink in a stream or a creek or a lake on a pond, you might get sick. So you always have to ask your parents first. A freshwater habitat is very different from the Arctic Ocean that we already learned about because the Arctic Ocean is a saltwater habitat, and the water that is found in oceans is salty and it's not good for drinking. So let's look at our vocabulary words. And we're starting off with the word amphibious. I love this word, amphibious. So before we get started, let's see if we can figure out how many syllables there are. Remember, every time our jaw drops, with a vowel sound. That is a syllable. So amphib e us. Amphibious. That is 4 syllables. Anyway, friends, if you are amphibious, that means you are a creature that can live in water and on land. So many frogs are amphibious. Our next word is float. And it doesn't mean like this puppy dog that you get to have an inflatable and float on water. That just means that you can stay on top of water without sinking underneath. So float is a verb. So freshwater, water that is not salty. And this looks like a beautiful lake. A beautiful lake. Our next word is gills. So, gills are on the part of a body of a fish that animals use to breathe. We have lungs, fish have gills, and here they are. And our last word that I don't have a picture of is waterproof. And if something is waterproof, that means that it protects them from the water and it allows water to not come through. So let's take a look at our first very beautiful picture. These are different freshwater habitats. So this shows a beautiful river, and this almost looks like glacier water if you see how pretty the blue is in it. Normally that's what we call from glacial flower, not a flower like a rose, but flour like what you would cook with. And the water from glaciers that scrapes against the rocks creates almost like a powder and it turns it this beautiful blue. Then we have a lake over here. This actually looks like a lake that I used to backpack at. We have a little pond and kind of a swampy, marshy pond. And here is a little creek, a little stream. So these are all beautiful and they are all fresh water habitats. So let's get back and let's see where Rattenborough is. Oh my gosh, look at him. He is fishing. Hello again. Glad you could join me. I thought that we needed a real change, so I've come off the dry land to a place where it's all wet all the time. It's a lake. A lake is an area of water that is surrounded by land or has land all around it. So if something is surrounded by something, that means it's all around. There is a lot of water in the world. In fact, did you know that water covers most of the Earth's surface? But only a tiny part of the world's water is fresh water, the kind of water you and I can drink, because there is very little salt in it. And here's the picture that we just finished talking about. Fresh water is found in streams, rivers, lakes, and ponds. The water in these streams, river, lakes, and ponds comes from rain and melting ice and snow. Isn't it amazing to think that the water from the drinking fountain at school or from the faucets in your house all come from rain? Oh, what is this, friends? Do you know what this is? I love this. These are water lilies. I'm here at the water's edge, where the water and land meet, to explore this lake and the plants and animals that call this freshwater habitat home. Freshwater habitats have many kinds of fish, birds, insects, and other animals. Standing here, I can see an enormous big leaf in the water. Let me climb onto it so we can get a better look. This is a water lily leaf. A water lily is a plant that lives in water near the edges of ponds and lakes. Plants are important in freshwater habitats because they make oxygen for animals to breathe. Plants are also food for the animals to eat, and they can provide shelter to protect animals from predators. Remember, a predator is an animal that hunts other animals. The leaves on the water lily are very large, round, and green, and they float on the surface of the water. And if you look at Rattenborough, he's using it like a little boat. And you see that turtle next to him? Looks like the turtle is too. So if the leaves float on the surface of a water, that means they stay on top of the water and they do not sink. Oh, so we've got the turtle and we have some other animals here. The water lily is well adapted for living in the habitat. Like the kapok trees in the rainforest, the lily's large leaves let it get as much sunlight as it needs for food and energy. Lilies are also food for many animals, believe it or not. Animals like deer, porcupines, beavers, and turtles all eat the leaves, whereas ducks and geese like to eat the roots. Some animals, like fish and frogs, use the lily leaves as hiding places, and the flowers bring bees and other insects. I'm going to float around the edge of the lake on this water lily leaf, but I'm going to have to leave soon because that pesky turtle will not leave me alone. I think the turtle's found a friend. Oh, these are beautiful. I've pushed out from the edge of the lake a little, and already I can see another kind of plant that lives here. It's called a cattail. Cattail. So, friends, that's a compound word, cattail. And it gets its name from the unusual way that it looks. Thankfully for me, it doesn't have much to do with real cats. Cattails have long, thin stems with foot-long furry flower spikes at the top that turn from green in the early summer to brown in the fall. The flower spike feels soft and furry and looks a little like a cat's tail, but I think it looks more like a hot dog on a stick. The plants can reach up to 9 feet in height, which lets them get as much sunlight as they need. As with the water lilies, some animals use cattails for food and shelter. Muskrats and geese like to eat the roots of the cattail, and the juicy green shoots are a favorite of moose and elk. Moose and elk, like caribou, are part of the deer family. Many kinds of birds make their homes among the cattails. It's very hard to see anything in there because cattails grow so thickly. So it's a good place for birds to build their nests and to lay and hatch their eggs. Predators like snakes and frogs also live among the cattails and search for animals like birds and insects for food. I think I'm going to move on now. As you know, I'm not very good with snakes. Oh, we learned about these in a read aloud that I did before. These are trout, friends. Come with me beneath the water and let's take a look at what's under there. Here are some nice looking rainbow trout. Fish can only live in water, and they breathe underwater using gills on the sides of their bodies. So, if you remember on the vocabulary words, friends, I pointed out the gills on the shark. Well, these are the gills on the fish right here. Gills take in oxygen from the water around them. Fish have strong tails that they use for swimming and fins that they use for steering and balance. The rainbow trout is a carnivore. Remember, a carnivore is an animal that eats other animals. It eats other water animals like insects, other fish, and sometimes even shellfish. It even eats some small land mammals like mice if it gets the chance, so I'm sure it wouldn't mind a nibble of a rat. Rainbow trout like to live in rivers, but some prefer the deeper water of big lakes. Don't think I knew that trout ate mice. All right. I enjoyed exploring beneath the surface of the water, and now I'm going to rest on a lily pad again. When I'm drying off a bit, let me show you a kind of frog called a bullfrog that I can see sitting at the water's edge. Frogs are amphibious, there's that word, which means they live both in the water and on the land. Bullfrogs are the largest kind of frog found in North America, and they can grow more than half a foot long and weigh more than a pound. That's a really big frog. The bullfrog gets its name from the loud cow like noise it makes. A male cow is called a bull. What sound does a cow make? Moo. Do you guys think that these frogs moo, or does it just sound like it? The bullfrog is resting now, but it will come out to hunt when it gets dark. Bullfrogs eat a lot of different kinds of food. They are carnivores, so they eat small fish, snakes, birds, and insects like this dragonfly that's buzzing around my head. Oh my goodness. So, friends, those of you that remember dragonflies, um, they're my very favorite. I love fireflies, sure, but dragonflies are very, very, very special to me. Adult dragonflies are flying insects with long bodies and wings. Dragonflies live around lakes, streams, and other freshwater habitats because they lay their eggs in water. Adult dragonflies eat other insects like mosquitoes, flies, and bees. The dragonfly uses its long wings to hover around in the air or stay in one place while flying where it catches its food. It has to be careful because the bullfrog isn't the only one that likes to eat dragonflies. Birds and turtles like to eat them too. Give me a thumbs up if you've seen a dragonfly before. Mm-hmm. Yes, I've seen them around here too. Oh, we've also seen these too, huh? The water is getting a little rough out here. Oh, that's why. Here come some birds that like to eat insects. These are a kind of duck called mallards. Ducks are birds and can live both in and out of water, but it's the water where they spend most of their time. Like all birds, ducks, like these mallards, are covered in feathers. Did you know that the duck's feathers are waterproof? If something is waterproof, it keeps water out. Ducks rub special oil from their tails over their feathers. Because oil and water don't mix, water drips right off the ducks without getting their feathers wet. And I like this next picture. Look at this diving duck, has his little booty in the air. Ducks float on the surface of the water and have large webbed feet to help them paddle. They dip their heads under the water and use their beaks, which are called bills, to search for food at the bottom of the lake. Here, the word bill refers to a duck's beak. Mallards eat grasses and seeds from plants and small animals like insects, worms, snails, frogs, and small fish. Well, we've had a good look around this freshwater habitat, but I have to get off this lily leaf before these ducks knock me off. There's another kind of water habitat, and we're going to have a look at it next time. I hope you'll join me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll have to start my long trip back to shore. So, friends, here is a hint on our next water habitat. And it's the one that's very special to me and should bring you super fond memories of our classroom. So, in our freshwater habitat, there are definitely special kind of plants that live there, special kinds of animals and plants and fish and insects that live in the freshwater habitat. But next time, we're going to learn about the ocean habitat, and the waters are definitely different. So, I want you, before we leave, I need to show you. This is our freshwater habitat picture. So you have mountains in the back, and this is water. This is all water here. And this looks like maybe a little dock that you could sit and fish on. So I want you to fill it in with some plants and animals that you see. And then I want you to give me at least two good sentences. Remember, you can tell me about the water, you can tell me about the plants, you can tell me about the animals. Good spelling, neat spelling, and beautiful pictures. And if you don't have your paper, you know you can do it in your journal. So next time, we'll be studying our ocean habitat. But until then, have a great afternoon, friends. Bye.